Hello again, fellow podcaster, and welcome back to Pod Theory. I'm your host, Jason Cercone, and today we're going to talk about how podcasting makes your brand content binge-worthy. Think of today's world and how information and entertainment is consumed. Thanks to technology, we're able to access anything we want when we desire. And in the case of a live event or a season premiere of a TV show, instead of having to be available the second it goes live, we have DVR services that allow us to record the show and watch it whenever we want. The biggest offering that on-demand services has given us is the ability to binge content. Now, this can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you look at it. If you're just looking to mindlessly escape with something like The Sopranos or The Office, then streaming services will allow you to consume as much of that content as you want in one sitting. This is where it can get bad, because before you know it, one episode becomes one season and you forget to go to bed. But it can be a good thing if binging is done in moderation and if you're consuming content that teaches you something. This is where having a great podcast comes into play. When a person finds a podcast that intrigues them, they'll typically start by listening to an episode. If they enjoy what they hear, they'll move on to another, and then another. And by then, if they're bought in, they're going to start catching up on episodes they missed in the past by going back in the archives and downloading past shows. This is incredibly powerful. Depending on when someone finds your show, if you captivate them with engaging content about your industry and help them find answers to their problems, all of a sudden they're hooked and putting your show in their ears for days, weeks, even months at a time until they get caught up. I know when I go on a binge of any sort, I end up having dreams about that content. Maybe that's just me, but it is what it is. So on my days when I'm 100% focused on podcast research and podcast development, it's usually a given that I'm going to have some type of dream centered around podcasting. Now, side note, one of the best dreams I've ever had was when I brokered a peace deal between Tony Soprano and Johnny Sack after they had a big blow-up over a construction bid during one of the 137 times I binged The Sopranos. You can't buy memories like that. But back to podcast binging. Now, as you know, your goal is to create a podcast that amplifies your brand message, showcases your industry knowledge, and establishes you as an authority within said industry. At the same time, you want to be entertaining, you want to be engaging, and you want to be in a mode where you're offering solutions to common problems that are found within your niche. If you create this and inject your personality into the production, boom, you have binge-worthy content. And as your audience grows, listeners are going to comb through your episode archives to discover more of what you have to offer. One of the major fundamentals of podcasting is to focus on producing quality, engaging content. When you do that, people are more likely to stick with your show once they find it. And when they do, they'll not only tell others about it, they'll spend hours binging your content and getting caught up on what they've missed. And that's going to wrap up today's episode of Pod Theory. If you like today's episode, please take a screenshot from your podcast app and post it on Twitter or your Instagram story and tag @Jason Cercone. I thank you in advance for spreading the word about Pod Theory, and thank you even more for being a loyal listener of the show. Good talk. I'll see you back here tomorrow. This has been Jason Cercone on Pod Theory.